Wishing a very good o'clock to all the students. Today we are here to discuss some concepts from chapter 25, properties of lines and angles. Mainly we will discuss the properties of adjacent angles and vertically opposite angles. We have already discussed what are adjacent angles and vertically opposite angles in the previous chapter 24. But before studying their properties, we will once remind what are these angles. So basically adjacent angles are the two angles which have a common vertex. Now we will relate it to the figure by side. Here we can see that two angles are formed. Angle COB, this one, and angle BOA, this one. Now we can see that the point O is common to both the angles, and this is also the vertex of both these angles. What does it mean? It means that both of these angles have a common vertex O. Now second property is that one common arm. Now you can see that COB and AOB have this arm OB in common. Okay, both these angles contain this arm OB in common. Third property is that other arms of the angle are on the opposite sides of the common arm. Now you can see that there are two arms in an angle. One arm is common to both the angles here, and the other arms are on either sides of this common arm. They are not on only one side, but the arms are on both the sides of this common arm. One arm is on this side and one arm is on this side, which means that all the three properties which we have written here are present in these two angles: a common vertex, a common arm, and non-common arms on either sides of the common arm, which makes them adjacent angles. Now there are vertically opposite angles. When two straight lines intersect, you know what are intersecting lines? Intersecting lines are those which meet each other at a point. Okay? So when these two lines are intersecting, the angles which are formed on the opposite sides of the point of intersection, which is O here, okay? The point of intersection is O, as you can see. And the angles which are formed on the opposite sides, means facing towards each other, will be known as vertically opposite, okay? Just as angle AOC and angle DOB, okay? And also angle AOD and angle COB. These are the pairs of vertically opposite angles, and the angles so formed are always equal to each other. Okay? Now we will move to their properties. So here we will discuss the properties of adjacent and vertically opposite angles. The first property which adjacent angles have is that when two straight lines intersect, as shown in this figure, two straight lines are intersecting, the sum of each pair of adjacent angles is always 180 degree. What are the pair of adjacent angles here? Here we have AOD and BOD, which are the pairs of adjacent angles. As you can see here, I have highlighted them. These are the pair of adjacent angles. Similarly, we have more pairs of adjacent angles. Angle DOB and angle BOC. They are having a common arm OB. Okay. Next pair is angle BOC and angle AOC. They are having this common arm OC. And next last pair is angle COA and angle AOD. Okay. So what is the property saying is that the sum of two adjacent angles will always be 180 degrees. Okay. Just as we have written here, angle AOD and angle DOB when are added gives 180 degree. Okay. Similarly, all the three pairs of adjacent angles when added give us 180 degrees. Okay. The second property which is written here is that when two straight lines intersect, the vertically opposite angles are always equal, as I shown you in the previous page. Okay. The vertically opposite angles which are formed here will be equal to each other. Angle AOC, and angle DOB are vertically opposite angles and they will be equal to each other. Similarly, we have another pair, angle AOD and angle COB. Okay, these are also equal to each other. Now there is second property which is derived from the first property itself. As you can see that written is, if the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degree, their exterior or non-common arms are always in the straight line. One arm they have in common, adjacent angles have one arm in common, and their sum is 180 degrees as I have shown you. So the property says that if the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degrees, then their non-common arms will always lie in a straight line. Okay, as you can see in this figure, these are a pair of adjacent angles, angle AOC and angle COB, because they are having. So you can see that here two adjacent angles are given, and as we have seen, their sum will be 180 degrees. And if their sum is 180 degrees, their non-common arms, which is AO and OB, are lying in the same straight line. Okay, this is the property saying. Okay, if the sum of two adjacent angles is 180 degree, their exterior arms are always in a straight line. Okay, you can see here also we have written angle AOD plus angle DOB equals to 180 degree. Now their common arm is OD, and you can see that the non-common arms, which are AO and OB, are lying in the same straight line. Okay. The second property says that if the exterior arms of two adjacent angles are in the same straight line, the sum of angles is always 180 degree. It is the converse of this property. Okay. Here we seen that if the sum is 180 degree, their non-common arms will be in a same straight line. And here we are seeing that if the non-common or the exterior arms of adjacent angles are in the same straight line, their sum will be equals to 180 degrees. Okay. Now we will study two new concepts. The concept of parallel lines and transversal lines. Okay. Parallel lines are those lines which lie in the same plane. Two lines which lie in the same plane and they do not meet or intersect each other. Okay, when extended in either directions endlessly. So you can see in this figure we having two lines which are lying in the same plane. Okay, and these lines seem not to be intersecting when extended in any direction endlessly. Okay, you can see that the distance between these lines is constantly equal here or here. Okay, This is also a property of parallel lines. So what are parallel lines? Parallel lines are those lines which do not meet or intersect each other when extended endlessly in both the directions, okay, and the distance between them always remains same, okay. Here you can also see. And how are they represented? Parallel lines are represented by showing arrows on both the sides in the same direction, okay. There are two arrows in the same direction. What does it mean? It means that we can extend them in any direction, but they will never meet to each other or intersect each other at any point, okay. The best example of parallel lines you can find is the railway tracks, okay. The railway tracks never meet each other. They go side by side, but they do not intersect each other, okay. One more example you can see here in this notebook itself. The lines which are drawn in this notebook are also parallel lines because the distance between them is equal, okay, and they are not meeting or intersecting each other at any point, okay. Now what are transversal line? Transversal line is that line which cuts two or more lines, whether parallel or non-parallel, at distinct points, okay. There are two lines given and one line is intersecting both of these lines on two different points, okay. We have these two lines, namely A and B, and now we have this line PQ which is intersecting both these lines, okay. The line A is also cut by PQ at point 1 and line B is also cut by PQ at point 2, okay. So this line PQ will be known as the transversal because it is intersecting both of these lines at distinct points, okay. In this figure you can see that A and B are parallel to each other, okay. But here in this figure we have three lines, say A, B and C, okay. But you can see that these two lines are not parallel lines, okay. Here also PQ is intersecting all of these lines at distinct points. PQ intersects A at 1, PQ intersects B at 2 and PQ intersects C at 3, okay. So there are more than two lines and are also not parallel, and PQ is a transversal, okay, because it is intersecting these three lines at distinct points, okay. So what is a transversal? A transversal is a line which cuts two or more lines, whether parallel or non-parallel, at distinct points, okay. That is the example of transversal lines. That's all. Thank you. I hope all the concepts are clear to you.